All right, again. Now, a cylinder. So, cut out a circle, but actually I kind of measured. And the way, so we have some basic math, geometry. So my diameter, which is the distance across the center, widest part of the circle from here to here, was about 2 3/4-ish. So in order to figure out how to make the cylinder, how long a piece I need to cut, what I did was I did a little math. So I took the 2.75, times it by pi, which for our purpose is 3.14. If you want to go longer than that, you can. Did my math, just so the teacher knows. There's, teacher, check your math. Came up with 8.6350, and that translates, if you look up on your decimal, on your inch decimal to inch fraction chart, 8 inches, 11/64. I am not going to measure 11/64 in this cardboard for this, so that the closest one there would be 5/8. Anyway, so I cut a strip that was 8 and 5/8 long. Actually, I gave a little bit extra. I can always trim it down. And I did the cutty thing there, so it bends. Math. Anyway, rid of that. And I also embedded this way. I also left the label on the outside, which can be kind of interesting. Might add a bit of color to your piece. And I also cut that kind of mitre-ish thing there. Cardboard's kind of tricky. And I also cut a little lap joint here. I cut away and left just a flap so I can glue that. So when I put it on, and tape would help, but this is the tricky part, doing it with the glue. Usually involves me cutting, and you can do a little bit at a time, do half at a time if it's easier to hold. But let me just, see, I made it too long. But anyway, I can use that little overlap to kind of glue like that, or you could butt up the edges. I could trim this down and butt up the edges, or do it again, or kind of reset. It's always, if you cut it a little long, that's easier to fix than if you cut it too small. And that just doesn't work with circles. You can kind of, guess and stuff, and you can utilize any kind of shape and put your, to create it more three-dimensionality to it. Glue that along, the edges there to make a shape like that. Okay. Anyway. And that could be as long or as small, and you can cut another piece and glue it together and make a little kind of oddly shaped box, or like I said, a cylinder. So those are that can be a relatively quick way to make a cylinder. All right, so next thing, a cone. And to be honest, a lot of times what people will do in an art class or that kind of situation when they're making a cone out of cardboard or paper is just guess. And cut out the thing and bend it and see what they get. Sometimes it can work pretty well. Sometimes it's a mess. You try again. You have to fuss with it a little bit. You can look up all kinds of stuff online about doing the math of a cone. But basically, and I know you can't see this very well, so... but what I've done is taken the base of the cone and the slant height, the angle of the cone that I want, and turn them into a circle. So the slant height becomes the circumference of the largest circle, and then the base becomes the circumference of, it'll be the circumference of the base. But in order to get that, you need to figure out the difference between the two. So what I initially did was I made one with a 2-inch base and a 4-inch slant height, which came out really nice because it's basically half. So when I divided the base circumference, by the way, to get circumference, what do? Diameter, so the diameter is 2 times pi, or 3.14. Anyway, so I divided the smaller number, so to speak, the base, by the larger number of the circumference based off of the slant length or height, and got essentially 0.5. So then I took how many degrees in a circle? Waiting for everybody to shout it out. 360. And, all right, there's a lot of scribbling on here. And came to half, so it's like 180 times, 360 times 0.5 is 180. And I thought, wow, how good I am. I made it really simple and easy. I thought maybe a little too easy because it just, half a circle. So then what I did was I decided to change my base diameter to 1.5, which then threw it off the difference between dividing the circumference of 1.5. There's a scribbling here. Was 0.367, and then 360 times 0.367 came out to 130 something. Yeah, about 130. Anyway, you can always make it a little bit longer and a little bit bigger. So that's that. That's the angle there, utilizing a protractor to figure out was 130. So I'm going to cut out the circle. I'm going to cut out this piece of pie, and I'm going to I'm going to cut lines in this and then bend that into a cone. Actually, no. First, I'm going to also draw an inner one. It's very hard to get a cone to bend, but also I like the idea of a cropped cone. So I'm going to draw another circle here. Oh, and I've been utilizing, where'd it go? By the way, a compass to make the circles. Not a really good compass, but nonetheless, compass. Make sure you tighten them down really well because they tend to slide around on you. And don't trust those things. I always measure from that point to there. I'm going to draw another circle in the middle, cut that out. So I'm going to do that, and we'll see how wonderfully it comes out. All right, so I got that cut out. Haven't cut out the center yet, but I cut slots in there, and I was able to kind of make a cone shape. And you could cut your disc the right diameter and glue that in. Make sure you break like all of these, and the more even these are, the more even your cone will be. And also, if you didn't want to see those lines, you could, I didn't even know the word heavy was there. You could cut, extra notch out of that, just like we were doing before with the other shapes, and then fold it this way. And you can kind of get it to work this way a little bit as it is. It's not too bad. But anyway, so again, if you cut off the top, now you have like kind of a truncated cone, and you could make another one and glue on top. You could, or a cylinder on top, or cover it, flatten it out. But that's a little bit of math involved, but a way that you can kind of create that sort of shape. Okay. And you can also do sections of it like this to have, maybe you have a square box on this side and you have just a part of a curve making a cone shape. So that can be kind of nice. But again, the evener you make those slot cuts, the evener this will be. Oh, and another little bonus I got out of that, because I cut the center out, I got another little mini cone out of that piece. Anyhow, so circles, or I'm sorry, spheres. Now there's a lot of different ways you could approach this. You could cut out a bunch of them and stack them together and get progressively smaller, and you could do the drawing for that and work out the math of what diameter of each one needed to be based off of, draw a circle, do cross sections at the thickness of your material. But for this, it's going to be a lot of pretty dense. I mean, you could do it, but it's going to be a lot of circles to do it. But that could be fun. You could look up Buckminster Fuller buckyballs and cut out a pattern and fold it together. That can be very good, but a really simple way. And I need to refine these cuts. But cut out 2 circles, cut slices from halfway through about, you could make it a little loose, or you can make it a little tight. It'll be easier if it's a little tight. And then on each one, halfway through, and then slide them together. This is so tight, you don't necessarily need that much glue, but you could put a little bit of glue there beforehand, or even now afterhand. You cut out little discs, half discs, and then glue them in like so, and continue to do that until you got like a sphere, and you can leave it open, or you can try to skin it. Ways that I skin it, I might take a piece of paper to make a template and just kind of run my finger with graphite on it across that surface where those ridges are. kind of hard to see probably in the video, but again, I'm running it over that edge there. I think I'd probably spend some time. And then just sort of trace that. Now, conversely, or you could do some math and look up and actually make like the wrapping that they would, or the surface they would put on like a paper globe. Use some comically large scissors, maybe not comically large, but to cut out that template. And if you have brown grocery bag paper, you could just go with that. Or even if you wanted to go over it with white or paper or color, you could then glue these into place. Okay, I think this was, whoops, wrong side. So inconsistencies. My calculations. Let's get this piece off of here. Cut it off later. Or you can cut out a piece of cardboard and do the slots and kind of completely cover thing, or do every other one so it's sort of like has an opening and a closing depending on how you want it to make it look. The other thing, when you're gluing these inside pieces in, if you just cut the same circle in half, it's gonna, because there's this space in the middle, it's gonna, I don't know if you can see this in the video, it's gonna stick out some more. So you want to trim a little off of there, about, you know, some part of that. So I'm gonna guess at it so it doesn't stick out. So it's relatively even with the rest. Okay, so that's sort of some ways to approach a sphere and play with some cardboard. Be careful of the knife. Be careful of if you're using a hot glue gun, be careful of burning yourself. And keep working.